What's up, everybody? Abu Cage. I think it's episode 204. I don't know. Somebody once told me you gotta not count episodes, and people are annoying when they say how many episodes there are. But especially with what I'm doing now, with it being just 5 minutes of hobby, 5 minutes of hobby, 5 minutes of hobby. The number will be a demarcation of here's the most recent one. Maybe you didn't listen to yesterday's. Maybe you should. Best comment I got on yesterday's episode is we should really get 10 minutes of hobby instead of 5. The problem I have with that is that I'm having a hard time keeping it to 5. If you notice, it's like 6.5, 7 minutes. So if I do a hobby 10 minutes, it'll probably be 12 or 14. I can't really, I always had a hard time staying within the rules. Speaking of which, this episode is brought to you by Arena Club and Bleecker Trading. And yeah, man, we're keeping the momentum going on this stuff. The hobby always gives you some fun stuff. And yesterday, not only did I do the episode, I did it a little later in the day, but, I do the news on Tuesdays. That's what I do. And what always happens when I do the news episodes is somebody will message me. Sometimes 10 people message me. Hey, what about this? Oh, I can't believe you didn't lead with this. I can't believe you didn't lead with that. And, a bunch of people messaged me yesterday. I can't believe you didn't put that the Burbank's new store out in California is open. And I probably should have, but I kind of like, I will tell you that the news that I come out with is based on what comes across my feed, right? And that had me thinking today for today's 5 minutes of hobby thoughts. Why is it that didn't come off? And does that matter? Why wasn't I, why didn't I see? I follow Burbank, I saw the Otani, mosaic mural that's on the wall there, of their new store. And it's definitely worthy of inclusion in the news. And I said to this a couple of people who sent me messages, maybe I'll try to squeeze them in next week that their new store is open. But I'm in New York. I'm not in California. I've never been to Burbank. I follow their content. I don't see the Card Father making as much content. How are you doing, on IG as much anymore? Maybe that's not, it's not that it's not newsworthy. It's just not where I was looking. And that is the hobby thought today, because it's funny to think about. And I tried to explain this to a couple of people by DMs. There are entire segments of the hobby that just don't care about other segments of it. And that's fine, right? It really is. Boston Card Hunter is back from his hiatus, I guess, maybe a day or two early or something. And he did a video about Joe Hollywood. I don't even know who the hell Joe Hollywood is. And I don't care. And people send me messages about how I need to be outraged about what goes on Whatnot. I'm not on Whatnot. I have been in a prior life. I sold cards on Whatnot. I never broke really on Whatnot. But I'm not going to report on it. I'm definitely, not going to do content about it because I'm far from an expert on what goes on. I don't watch what goes on. I don't spend my time, in breaks. I don't watch the breaks. I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people love it. And a lot of people want to, fix it. And a lot of people want to, govern it and complain about what goes on there and stuff. It's just, there are pockets that just give a shit about Jordan cards and what hierarchy they fit in the food pyramid. There are pockets who just like vintage baseball cards. You can send me all the messages you want about how I need to report on the goings on of breakers, and I should boycott this company because they are, they work with these people and they're breakers and they're bad. Okay. I kind of don't care. Look, there's some stuff I'll speak out on, right? If it's bad enough, but if a breaker complains that they are not getting as much as they thought they were going to get for a pack or for a card, and they start flipping out on stream saying, I'm going to end the stream, you guys aren't bidding enough. All right, that's probably not what they should do. The answer to that is not boycott them and have Whatnot throw them off. It's you shouldn't frequent their stream. You shouldn't buy from them. You shouldn't continue to give them business. Not, hey, we should, make some content about boycotting them and stuff. Boston Card Hunter could do whatever he wants. He can do whatever content he wants. And obviously that gets a lot of views, a lot more than this is going to get. But my 5 minutes, my thought today is sometimes in this space, there's just so much going on. It's like a horse running a race, right? You got to pay attention to your own race, your own lane. You put the blinders on, right? And, you enjoy the hobby. And sometimes doing that, maybe your feed is more what you like. maybe your hobby journey and what you're doing will block out some of the madness that can kind of distract you from, the parts of the space that you want to spend your time and your money in. The parts that, if you're anything like me, I got enough drama going on in my life, my job, my family, relatives. I come here for a 5-minute escape from that drama. And if my time here in the hobby, where I'm trying to escape, winds up just being more drama, who the hell's going to want to come here for an escape? You'll find something else. Like I say, you'll glue together model airplanes or something, you start meditating. But that's my thoughts for today. I'm sure a lot of you guys think the same way. Maybe some of you think I'm an idiot, which is fine. Either way, you're here watching. And I love you for it. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. I'm liking this everyday thing. Let's keep it under 6. Gotcha.